talking, by the way, about the woman rabbi question.
About the what?
The woman rabbi question.
The woman rabbi question?
I missed that one. What's the question?
Yeah, I didn't really catch it.
So can women be rabbis?
No, they can't. Not at all. Of course not.
Can a woman read from the Torah?
Yeah, women can. What do you mean? Oh, you mean like in shul?
Alex, have you been hanging out with?
No, women cannot read in shul. No.
Alex, have you been hanging out with our friends at Hever Office as well for a good amount of time? I'm just kidding.
Alex, you know the problem with you, Alex. There's a big problem with your question because they're loaded. Even if you don't intend, even if they're not loaded to you, but they come preloaded based on how they've been treated in recent history. So let me unload.
Before you unload, let me just give you some context of where the question comes from. It's not coming in a vacuum. And I remember reaching out to you guys around Shavuos time saying, and I would like to do a podcast, and I haven't had a chance to do it because I had some real material that I really wanted to discuss, connected very much to a lot of these questions that I just posed and to an experience that I had over Shavuos at the Isabella Friedman Jewish Retreat Center.
Oh, Isabella Friedman. There you go. Okay.
Which was the second time I was there after a Pesach experience, and I came back for Shavuos experience with my kids. Mm-hmm. That a lot of these questions came up in real time.
Yeah, Isabella Friedman is like Orthodox woke central. Just, I mean, if you didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can. Have you been there?
I'm just saying that in reality, woke and Orthodox are mutually exclusive.
So I was there. I've been there twice already. I mean, I can share with you what happened with my experience there, which was kind of fascinating.
Can I hold on?
But that's where these questions. That's the context. But I want to hear what Frank had to say.
Right. So I'm going to be short, and then the context doesn't really matter because no women can't be rabbis, but yes, women can definitely be tremendous Torah scholars. Okay. So when someone says, and it's usually a political agitator, says, can a woman be a rabbi? So people, when they hear the word rabbi, they assume Torah scholar, and they don't understand the other communal issues that a rabbi has to deal with. Okay. Women can be tremendous Torah scholars, and we have solid examples. And trust me, it makes me sick to my stomach to think that some women are listening to this and they think that I'm pandering to them, because I like to take it the other way. I would like to offend them when possible, just so they know.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would like to, but I also
you're Yaitzi. I think you're Yaitzi.
Good. But I have to stay somewhat. I have to stay somewhat connected to reality. Part of reality is that there have been many tremendous women Torah scholars. Okay. Everybody talks about Rashi's daughters. There was a female Rebbe. Okay, obviously it's not
Rabbi. Yeah, they call her Rabbi.
No. They called her a Rebbe. Okay, she wasn't officially a Rebbe, but she was so great. Okay, you have people like the Alter Rebbe's daughter. There are tremendous, like heavenly, angelic human beings that come to this world as women. You understand? So all of that is what most people are asking. Can there be women like that?
50%.
Women prophets, women with Ruach HaKodesh, women who are tremendously knowledgeable. All of that is true. Women can be moils if necessary. It's not.
So let me ask you some practical. If you guys want, I can go into this a little bit.
Hold on a second. It's almost never.
Can you tell us of the experience, and then we can
Yeah. So, I'm just running back in my elevator for a second. It should be fine. I was there for Passover.
Oh my goodness. What's that noise? Hello?
I'm still here. I think we might have lost.
I think we might. I can't hear you.
Did Alex fall into an elevator shaft? That's kind of what it sounded like.
I hope he didn't.
Are
you okay?
I'm kind of hoping that he didn't, and it's not likely because he's in upstate, I hope, right?
Well, he says he's in an elevator, so I don't know what upstate he's in.
Oh, so he's not upstate.
No, he's not. Hello?
It definitely sounded metallic and springy, whatever we just heard.
He said he's doing something with a vacuum cleaner.
He did something with a vacuum cleaner. Oh,
Hopefully he gets sucked into the vacuum cleaner.
that doesn't bode well.
It's
You know, when I bought one of those robot vacuum cleaners,
Those
and
guys.
I specifically wanted the cheapest one that had the least amount of Wi-Fi, stuff.
I keep thinking of Terminator.
I didn't want any AI because I didn't want to wake up
Yeah.
in the middle of the night and find my vacuum building an arm for itself.
I'm telling you, I'm thinking of Terminator. Yeah, it's like
Guys, hey, sorry.
yeah.
He's alive.
Back. Technology got the best of me, but I got it back.
She blinded you with science.
So Isabella Friedman is this Jewish retreat center. It's been around for a long time, and it's set up. They have a farm, they have a lake, they have hiking, and it's this.
Did we lose him again? I think we lost him again.
The vacuum cleaner zapped the Wi-Fi. My father is cracking up. No,
What's
the vacuum cleaner.
Your dad's laughing? Why? What did I miss?
No, because I said I think the
That's
vacuum
kind of
cleaner zapped the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Still cracking up. Still breaking up.
Every time I start talking about Isabella Friedman,
Alex, you were caught in a temporal disturbance.
Anyway. Oh goodness.
Yes, it.
hello.
Yeah. Oh, you're back. All right.
Sorry. Every time it's like the Isabella Friedman conspiracy. Every time I start talking about it, I lose connection. Anyway, so I was on this. I was looking for a place to take my kids for Passover, and that it was like kids friendly. And I actually asked in like a divorced group, and they suggest, "Oh, check out Isabella Friedman." So I went. This was Passover, and there was like an Orthodox minyan. It was good. My kids loved it. There's a communal. There was elements of that left, liberal, sustainable energy, right? But it was fine. I had a good time. It's a very beautiful space, like very nice to be in nature. Now I came back for Shavuos, expecting something similar. You guys are with me?
I'm hearing you. I'm listening.
Yep. So I came back for Shavuos, expecting something similar. And what happened was there was two minyanim. There was a liberal Orthodox minyan. One minyan was this liberal Orthodox minyan, and the second one was like this renewal minyan. The renewal minyan was totally like out of bounds, completely totally out of bounds. Microphones, guitars, different part of the community. So then I went to what I thought was the Orthodox minyan. They had a mechitza. They had this Rabbi Yisachar Katz.
Oh, I know that guy. Yeah.
Who had the payas, who looked like the part.
He looks the part, but he's whatever.
So I got a chance to spend 3 days over there. So and all of a sudden, women start davening from the Amud, leading the prayer. And this was like Friday night. And then Shabbos morning, women are getting aliyahs, reading from the Torah. Certain things they're not allowed to do, like they don't say Kaddishes. What was interesting, they were bedafka, not the renewal minyan. And all these people were like, the women at least, and the ones that seemed to be like the from ones, were all dressed very tzniusly, meaning like they seemed to be really honoring halacha, and they consider themselves Orthodox. So I found myself a little bit like triggered, like what the heck is going on over here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been religious my entire life since I became from. 2004 I became Shomer Shabbat, and I've experienced Yiddishkeit, Orthodox Yiddishkeit in a certain way, and now all of a sudden, you know, it was a little triggering. So Rabbi Katz got up. He's like, "There's some of you guys here that may be a little bit uncomfortable." I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I was, just to give you a little more context, I'm in a situation where I have kids. You know, I don't have a woman with me, and if my kids are happy, I'm happy. All I need is kosher food, right? So I'm not worried about the food. You know, if my kids are having a good time and the environment there is like positive for them and they're enjoying it, I'm good. So I found myself like, wait a minute, what do I do? Am I even allowed to be here? Am I not allowed to be here? So Rabbi Katz gave like this, he was talking to me and like a few other people, like he gave like this really brief, like halachic background on woman as counted part of the T-board, the whole Indian and the back and the forth. And you know what? I'm like to myself, okay, I'm good. I'm at peace. Whatever he says, I'm good. This is what it is. I can't. I'm here for 3 days.
No, I want you to. Can you spend a little bit more time on his actual explanation? I want to be open-minded. Is this a legitimate halachic viewpoint? How, you know, maybe just a minority.
So it's interesting. So I'll tell you, I don't know enough. I don't. This guy is clearly a scholar.
He is a scholar. If you read some of his stuff, yeah.
Clearly,
Yeah.
guy knows a lot of Torah from Satmar, from Navardik, from
he's
like.
He's a Hasid. He grew up Satmar, one of those.
The guy he knows a lot of Torah.
Yeah.
A lot of Torah. I cannot stand in front of him and debate him. Now it's very interesting. This Shabbos, this is kind of why it came back up on my radar. This Shabbos, what happened? I was reading an article, Rabbi Schachter from YU, on this issue. Can a woman be a rabbi? Right? And he actually got into some of the halachas that I think Rabbi Katz was talking about. Right? So the whole idea of why women were not allowed to read from the Torah, or I guess get a because at that time, if you're getting aliyah, you're actually reading the Torah, right? You're not just getting an aliyah. Originally, when it was established, came from a place of the modesty of the congregation, or like the embarrassment of like men should not be embarrassed that they don't know how to read, and a woman is going to get up and read, something like that. Like there was a real thing like that.
Explain that again. I'm not catching.
Meaning, kibud hatzibur. There's a concept of like modesty. Yeah. And the halachas that I'm getting came from what Rabbi Schachter. I have a memory of the article that I read this past Shabbos, which brought up some, reminders from what Rabbi Katz was talking about. The basic concept is that there's an inyan of modesty, of us thinking to ourselves, right? But for the sake of Torah, we're allowed to get together as a minyan. This Rabbi Schachter is explaining. As a minyan, as a congregation, get together so that we can do Torah communally, and that helps us do Torah and mitzvahs. And how for men that was kind of necessary, but for women, they still needed to be more modest. That was one inyan, not to step into that. And the other thing really had to do with, so the men wouldn't be embarrassed that women are able to do these things. It's some kind of concept like that. And that was mentioned by Rabbi Katz and by Rabbi Schachter, who had a totally different viewpoint. And I actually, reading Rabbi Schachter's, he brought up some stuff which I can share in a minute that really made me uncomfortable. I couldn't follow his logic. So you have what's called this liberal Orthodox congregation, where his whole thing was the men opposite are encouraging women to be this way. They're not embarrassed. We're following halacha, and we're allowing women to participate in certain ways that appear to be very much like what's like unusual, just from my standpoint of like, and it led me to wonder, what led me to question a lot of things. Now, it was just interesting. Now, one of the things Rabbi Schachter said in this week's Torah that I read, he said how Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was talking about the whole idea of shaking lulav for a woman, and some of the other mitzvahs that they could do, but they're not required to do, right? Is that according to Rabbi Feinstein, they're allowed so long as their kavana is because they want to connect to God. Now, if they're, according to Rabbi Schachter was saying, if their kavana is, part of this whole feminist movement Indian, the woman needs to get our rights back, right? Then it's usher. So then Rabbi Schachter made the conclusion that a woman that wants to be a rabbi and a woman that wants to be involved in these kinds of things is coming from this political feminist push, which is an unacceptable reason to do it. Now, the whole point of the liberal, and which actually helped me understand the liberal Orthodox point, whether I agree with it or not is separate. Just their perspective is, no, our intention is not because of feminism. We're Orthodox. And here's a community of people that are willing to create space. And we're not reform. And we're bedafka, not the renewal. And we're bedafka, not the conservative movement. We're Orthodox, but we are willing to let women be more involved and participate a certain way. But with limits. It's like real biror. It's like, you could do this, but not this. And there's like the mechitza was like, your typical, like very like modern Orthodox shul. Like you could see the woman, but there is like a symbolic mechitza standing in the middle, which is a big difference than conservative or reform or renewal, whatever they were doing over there. So that was that. So there's a second part to the story. It gets better. So I kind of like created space. I'm here. I'm not going to let this bother me, or this is, it is what it is. And I could say Kaddish here with 10 men because I needed to say Kaddish. The next day was Shavuos. So I happened to have gone to I went to the bathroom, and the way back from the bathroom happened to be when they were like giving out the aliyahs. And it was funny. They had these like colored paper. Like, who wants an aliyah? I'm like, I'll take an aliyah, right? So I get the aliyah of the Seres Dibros, right? I get called to the aliyah, and there's a woman reading from the Torah. And like, I got to say the brachas. I got to go through the whole thing. So it was almost as if like, okay, Alex, you just decided to make space. Now, really, how do you feel? And I can just share with you guys what I went through during that experience. First of all, this lady, her name was Tanya. She was like one of the rabbinites there. She was like in her 50s. Mm-hmm. She actually was really nice, frum lady. She sat with me and my kids the first, just randomly. We really talked, like really learned person, mm-hmm. like a kind, Orthodox, gentle, older woman, right? Who happened to be reading from the Torah on Shavuos morning. So she's there now. This woman was like, she was like shaking, like in awe. Like it was a pretty intense thing that she was going through while she was reading it. And I actually at some point found myself, I kind of picked up this practice and some of this ayahuasca stuff where you see someone going through something, you can send them energy, you can send them like support without actually physically doing anything, right?
Yeah.
So I found myself like, we were like obviously standing right next to each other. I got the Leah, she's reading from the Torah. I found myself like supporting her. Yeah. I also found myself under my breath saying the words just in case, wait, maybe what she's doing is not okay, then at least I can be
Yeah.
And those things were happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And I actually felt like it was an extremely powerful experience for me. Now, it was one of those things like I can't control it. Any attempt for me to control that at that moment just embarrasses a whole lot of people. It's like the opposite of a Havas Yisrael.
Yeah.
And it was kind of wild. And I felt some kind of like masculine, feminine, like realignment happening. It was weird. Now, standing today where I am now, I'm not sure if that's halachically okay. After a few weeks, I asked Rabbi Milstein, and he was like, I'm not sure. He said, he didn't say no or yes for sure. He's like, I'm not sure you were Yoitzi the Sarah's gibberish. That's what he's like, I'm not sure.
Mm.
And what the point that Rabbi Schachter made that kind of bothered me, that I didn't understand, he brought the Rabbi Feinstein halacha that says a woman that shakes lulav with an intention to connect to God is okay, but a woman that shakes lulav with an intention because she's somehow standing up with this whole feminist woman's rights thing is not okay. And then he made the conclusion that any woman that wants to be a rabbi or a woman that wants to be involved in the congregation in such a way is doing it bedavka because of a feminist mentality, and therefore it is asa. But what if her intention is not?
Okay, so tell me when you're done. I'd like to respond.
It's not. I'm not even like calling for. I mean, I would love to hear your feedback and perspectives. I'm just saying this was just my experience, and I felt like I was expanded a little bit, like created space. And I'll make my last point, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say. What the thought that ran through my mind is, I grew up, since I became frum, in this world of Russian, totally non-religious, anti-religious people that are just not living that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I've learned how to have a Havas Israel for them, notwithstanding that they live a life totally contrary to mine. Mm-hmm. And that's okay for me.
Yeah.
But now I find myself in this group of people that are much more aligned in the way they observe Judaism than any of these other people in my life.
Yeah.
But somehow there's a part of me that is judging it, that is trying to say, no, you're bad. I don't know if they're right or wrong. And that's the point. Like, it doesn't matter for me.
Yeah.
From my Dalet Amos, that was just an interest. Like, it was expanding for me. That like, why is it harder for me to have a Havas Israel and to like create space for these people to do things the way they want without judging them or without like being bothered by it?
Yeah.
It was powerful. It gets deeper, by the way, guys. But I'll pause for now before I really start triggering people.
By the way, this word triggering is not allowed on our program.
Why? It gets you banned?
It's too faggy a term.
So what are we gonna? You keep using this word, that faggy word, man.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm happy you don't like it. I enjoy saying it and causing that inside of you.
Cool. We enjoy triggering you.
Can I explain to you why I don't like it?
I don't
For a
care.
second.
And we're gonna get. No, I mean I care. I'm just joking, but I
just one sentence. I think that you have a lot of very, very, very valuable things to say, and it may take away a little bit.
Our primary mission in this podcast is to banish bullshit from the earth. Okay. That's our primary mission here. No tolerance whatsoever for bullshit.
So okay, listen, I feel like using that kind of approach in communication is a little bullshitty. Okay, good. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I know.
But I want to hear what you guys have to say about this whole feminine explosion that happened.
Okay,
so Frank, you can Frank. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but I think it's better you come from more perspective of talking about hashkafa and halacha, and then I can go. I want to go into my experiences of when I lived in Crown Heights and when I encountered these very people that you encountered. It's literally the same people. So okay.
So there's two categories of issues here. Number one is the letter of the law. Okay, it's like things that lie within the legal spectrum. Like there's a framework, just like in every country that has a legal code. There's a framework in which you can operate, where you can technically get away with things that are still technically legal, right? So let's say everything that they're doing in the shul falls into that category. That doesn't mean that it's right. And here's what I mean. That's it being right or wrong falls into the other category, which is what are we trying to accomplish here? What are we doing here on earth? Okay. Obviously we're doing what God needs us to do. Okay. That's what we're here to do. This is God's project. And by the way, I'm not a God guy. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm this big fan. I'm just stating facts. Okay? This is what I'm saying is not a reflection of what's in my heart. It's just a reflection of reality. Okay? My personal relationship with God is, whatever. Okay? But the reality is that he is real, he exists, and this is his operation. Okay? Part of the intent of this operation is that God created the male principle and the female principle. Okay? Each one has a very, very specific a specific set of requirements, a specific focus. Okay? The general idea, if you're thinking about God, if God is the issue here, okay, then what you want to do is you want to do what God wanted you to do. He made you into a woman. That means embrace the feminine principle and completely immerse yourself in all things feminine Torah related. Okay? The mitzvahs that are for women, there's depth and there's knowledge and there's, trust me, plenty of extremely deep spirituality and connection to God, focusing on the feminine Torah mitzvahs and all the learning and all the hashkafa and all the Kabbalah. And it's momentous. There's just as much female opportunity to connect to God in a true way as men. It's just different. Okay, so that's number one. Now, if you have a shul, just for the folks at home, davening is mandated for men. It's required. It is not required for women. Okay, so if you have an environment that God intended to be a masculine environment, okay, he created situations where men are compelled to do certain things. They have to be there. It's not optional. Okay, this is part of the service to God. Okay, when we had the temple, it was bringing the sacrifices and doing all that stuff. Okay, now we fulfill the same thing by doing the services in the temple, in shul. Okay, in the synagogue. Okay, so there's real work being done there, and it's required of men. Women are required to do work that's different. They have their own requirements. You don't see men sticking their asses there. You understand? So, generally speaking, when women are trying to push their way into an environment that God intended to be male, okay, it's usually there's some kind of weird jealousy. There's some kind of, they're trying to push us out. It's this mentality where when you're a kid, everybody can relate to this. When you're a little kid and the older people, whether it's your older brother, your parents, your older cousins, they're trying to get you to go to sleep. But the little kid doesn't want to go to sleep. Why? Because he thinks you're going to go to a party with cake and pizza when he's sleeping, and that they don't, and that you don't want the kid there. You want to go to have a fun party and have this great time, but you want to exclude the kid. So he's upset, doesn't want to go to sleep. That's what he thinks is going to happen. There's some element of that to women trying to essentially go into this environment that men are supposed to be in. That's supposed to be, God obviously wants men.
So if a woman wants to connect, and I'm not, again, I don't know.
Hold on a second. I already said that there are at least as many opportunities for women who truly want to connect to Hashem on a deep level, the way Hashem wants.
So what if you have a congregation?
A what?
Where a congregation of men and women, right? Where the women want to connect a certain way.
That's the problem right there. That's the problem.
And you have a community of men that are very happy to connect.
There's a lot of problems with that, because listen to what you're saying. The women want. What are you not hearing? What God wants. That's already.
But the question is that necessarily inconsistent with what God wants? It's
inconsistent because you see that's
because of what? Because of halacha. It's a halachic question.
Wait a minute. Let me answer the question. Dude, I listened to you for a long time. I want to be
I'm
able
not
to
arguing with you.
I want to be able to respond.
Having a dialogue.
I'm just saying that God set aside mitzvahs for women. The mitzvahs are at least as cool, if not cooler, than the mitzvahs that men have. By cool, I mean important and the same level of opportunity, if not more, to connect to God. If that's what the issue is. If your issue, ladies, if your issue is about worrying about having opportunities to connect to God, you got plenty and you got more than we do. Okay? So what you said is the women want to connect to God in this way. So God.
Let's ask another question.
Hold on. No, you're going to listen to my answer.
You answered me already. I got
No,
you.
I didn't. No, you
There's
keep.
a woman role, there's a man.
You literally
roles.
interrupted me as I'm getting to the actual crux of the issue.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so what I'm saying is like this. The women who want opportunities to connect to Hashem have more than enough that was given to them. Okay, but when women want to connect the way they want to connect, that's already a problem. That's already a huge problem. And so it puts God in a position where he has to say, well, wait a minute, why don't you connect the way I gave you a way to connect? What's wrong with the way that I gave it to you? Why you want to connect the other way? Okay, fine. I guess if this is how you want to, at least you want to connect to me. I suppose that's okay. But it goes into a situation where God has to kind of like tolerate it, rather than the preferable way, which is the way he wants it. Remember, what are we trying to accomplish here? To serve God the way he wants, right? Okay. Number two, the men who are okay with it, okay, who are promoting such an idea, they think it's good, right? What they're doing is that they are moving themselves out of the way when they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be in there. Do you understand? They're supposed to be embarrassed when a woman can read Torah better than them, because they're supposed to. It's incumbent upon him, not her. Why isn't he as good as her? He should be better because he's the one supposed to be involved in it more than she is. Okay, so it's not okay to be not embarrassed. A man should be embarrassed.
What is our job relative to this kind of conversation?
Is
it our job to say they're wrong? Is it our job to say, what, they want to serve God in this way, let them do whatever they want?
No, that's a completely
let them kind of.
No, it's not my. Listen, if it's only my job if somebody asks me.
No, but that's a very realistic question because I think one of the biggest problems in Judaism, Bichlal, is the need. And I'm not accusing you guys I'm just saying I feel there's a big problem in Yiddishkeit Bichlal, where there's a sense of responsibility to tell other parts of fellow Jews how they're messed up and they're wrong and they're fucked up, and it's because of you, Mashiach, isn't it?
No, that's so. Okay, hold on. I would never say that. Here's what I'm not saying you are. Here's how I would approach your question, but I would like to finish answering after I address this new question. I want to go back to what I was saying before. Okay, but so here's what I would do. I would go to the shul and I would ask if it would be okay to make an announcement and to address the congregation. And I would say the following: I love you all and I respect you all without exception, right? Without condition. However, there's no however, but I do have, I think that some of the things that you're doing are really wrong. And if it's okay with you, I would like to have a discussion, an organized civil discussion about it. And then I would respect whatever their answer is. If they say, no, we don't want to hear from you, I would leave. That's it. That's how I would go about it.
It's much deeper than that over here, just because you have the Rav that's there is extremely knowledgeable, and he carved out a halachic path for them, whether that is working or not working. I don't know whether it's good or not. I'm saying. That's like a tax. It's like a tax attorney trying to find you all these loopholes to get around to doing something. Okay. Exactly. And what I'm saying, it could be the halachic carve out that he was able to do may actually be, it's possible, allows them to do what they want to do. Okay, it does, but that's, you see, the question, it's always what
what is the primary goal? To make God happy? If that's your goal, then it would seem that you're not going along with what God set out. You're trying to impose your will more upon God.
Whoa. You're saying that what makes God happy is compliance with halacha.
No.
With his will.
No.
God's will is halacha.
No. Listen, God has a primary will. Let's say, look. Let's say God says like this. Look, guys.
What do you mean primary? No, Frank. God, the Ratzon Shel Elyon is halacha. Now, the way halacha is applied in our world,
Alex, that is not correct.
Okay, halacha is how God's will is, how God expects us to honor Him, to follow halacha.
Halacha is the method.
Guys,
halacha is how we follow God's will. It's a very basic statement. I'm sure you agree with that.
If you allow me to comment, I'll tell you what I actually think.
All I'm saying is that if there is a halachic way, and halacha doesn't need to be agreed upon by everybody, there's a lot of machlokes and still room for leniency and stringency. But still, if there is a basis in halacha, then that is God's will.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. If you allow me to explain,
so I guess that's where we disagree.
Mean.
That's where we disagree.
No, you're not. You dude. There's no possible.
And I'm not saying this is halacha.
There's no possible way for you to disagree with me because you won't even fucking listen to what I'm trying to say. Look, I'll give you an example, okay? And this has happened a lot. All right. God told us we got to keep kosher. Okay. This is the general what we're trying to accomplish. This is a general tachlis. You have to keep kosher. Okay. Now people, they would go to a restaurant, they go to a supermarket, and the supermarket is selling packaged meat that has a reliable kosher symbol on it. Okay. But it's found out after the fact that this shipment of meat, there was a problem with it, that, whereas usually the guys who are supervising the kashrut, the kosherness, are pretty good, but in this particular area for this particular amount of time, there was big problems with it. Okay. And it turned out upon looking at that, it's not kosher. But the people, since they didn't know that, right, and they went to buy food that's relied upon normally, so they don't get in trouble for it. Okay. But did they accomplish what the goal was? Is God happy?
Listen, I hear what you're saying, but this is a different thing.
No, that's
kosher. Now, kosher is more black and white. We're talking about kosher food.
I'm trying to give an example that most people can just relate to and understand. You understand? If God said, "Guys, I want a red Ferrari," right? And he says, we're supposed to produce a red Ferrari for him. But in the end, when finally,
God says, "Give me a Ferrari."
No, hold on. When he comes,
give me a Ferrari, but you can make it black, you can make it red, you can make it white.
That's not the scenario that's not, dude. You can't.
That's what I'm talking about.
You can't you can't poke your ass into my metaphor. Let me finish the metaphor.
I'm telling you how it fails.
No, it didn't fail. You didn't allow it to fail. Okay, so God said, "I want a red Ferrari." Okay, and when it comes to pick up the Ferrari, we promised him 6 weeks. We'll build him a custom Ferrari. Okay, red. When it comes to 6 weeks later, we're like, well, listen, we got the Ferrari body, but the spoiler is from a Countach Lamborghini. The red color that you wanted, it's pretty close. It's kind of orangish. It's in the red spectrum. The motor is not Ferrari. It's Honda, right? But there is a similarity. Both are the Honda is a V12. I know you wanted a flat 12 mid-engine, and all this bullshit. Did we give God what he wanted or not? So the question is, God usually said, listen. God usually says, all right, I guess fine. Okay. He'll take it because he wants to be nice, but did we do what he wanted or not? No. Okay.
Is there a halachic
So the question is,
understanding of how halacha
hang on.
gets made?
So the question is like this: are we okay with getting away with it? He'll let us get away with it, but are we okay with not giving him what he wants?
So you're saying someone that's machmir really makes the red Ferrari, and someone that's a little bit lenient, right?
Let me be more specific.
Is like or more lenient against the Ferrari with the bootleg part.
Look. I don't want to get into.
Is that your analogy?
Let me tell you what my analogy is. I don't want to use those terms because they can be used to get off the point. The point is, you have people whose intent, here's what they're trying to accomplish. They want to give God exactly what he's asking for. And then you have people who are like, I'm okay with getting away with giving God not exactly what he's asking for. That's what it comes down to.
No, I don't see it that way.
You could see it how
it's fine. You know, can I give you an example? I'll give you an example.
And there's
we
one
have
more
the
point.
mitzvah.
No. I'm gonna have to go back to the original thing that you talked about. There's an important point that I didn't give a chance to talk about. Okay, the guys who go to shul, they're supposed to be there, and they're supposed to be they're supposed to be the ones proficient at everything that's going on there. Instead, they're stepping to the side and letting women do for them what they're supposed to be doing, which is stupid.
No, there's a rabbinical figure there that they follow that gave a halachic analysis on what is allowed and what is not allowed.
Listen to what I'm saying.
What
God
you're saying doesn't fit the situation.
Listen. God wants this type of service from men. It's male. That's why it is. Forget about this. Forget about halachic jiu-jitsu. Just talk simple. What does God want? He wants certain things from men. He wants certain things from women.
Frank, is there a possibility that there is a little bit more room to be lenient here? It just could be we haven't been exposed to it in 20 years or ever in our circle, in our bubble. But there's a way perhaps that other people have been exposed, that it's been around for a long time.
Gentlemen, can I jump in? Alex, can I jump in?
I'm just gonna make one point, response to everything that's Frank has been saying.
Dude, you got it, dude. You were telling that whole story, dude. When you were telling that whole story, you were speaking openly. No one was interrupting you, and you had free range, and you got a chance to get it out.
You just finished out. I was just saying the thing.
No, I did not finish up. I did not finish up.
Why
you decided that I finished up. Alex, you're being a fucking prick. I'm sorry, bro.
Why are you getting so aggressive?
Because you keep interrupting me. You don't allow.
I'm not interrupting you.
You don't give me the same respect. You don't give me the same respect that I gave to you.
I'm talk as much as you want, guys. Go ahead.
Take care, bro. If you can't give what you get, then take care.
Go ahead.
Okay. What I wanted to finish saying was that aside from the fact that men are obligated to daven and women are not, is a very, very, very clear communication about God's primary will. If you want to weasel your way out of it, God gives you the opportunity to. Okay, that's all that halachic jiu-jitsu that you were describing by this wonderful halachic expert. Okay, listen, Doeg, who was King David's arch enemy, was also a halachic expert. Okay, halachic experts have caused some of the greatest tragedies in history. I'm not saying that this rabbi is Doeg. I'm just saying that being a halachic expert does not necessarily mean that it equals God's will. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, women, okay, guys and women in certain situations should not be in the same environment, okay, because it's a denial of reality. Okay, if I happen to see, let's say there's 7 women there, right, and 2 of them are really hot. Now, instead of davening and trying to focus on what I usually focus on, I'm struggling not to stare at their asses whenever there's a chance.
So that's why that congregation is not for you.
Yeah, because I'm a.
But does
because
that
I'm a-
mean that congregation should
because
be
I-
banned?
yeah,
for all,
yeah, because
all
I'm a
people?
filthy pig and everybody there is an enlightened being.
No, I'm like you. I'm not comfortable davening in
I'm
that
just saying
congregation.
that
That's not my
that's
congregation.
a basic thing for guys.
Gentlemen, can I jump in?
Just Greg, one
Greg,
thing,
I'm
and
almost done.
it's a general thing I want to say.
I'm almost done.
Go ahead.
So here's this. So here's the basic summary. This is my conclusion. You have women involved in a situation where they're not obligated to, where men are obligated to. Essentially, they are inadvertently interfering with men developing themselves there. Okay. Because if you allow a female balkora, then what about the male balkora? He's not getting the practice that he needs. Even if she's better than him, then he's the one required to do it. Do you understand? If there's an emergency situation and there's literally nobody who can read the Torah and the Torah needs to be read, that's one thing. If there's a female moil and there's nobody else available, of course you got to do it. Okay? But that's not generally the role that God designated for women. Women have their own important roles that need to be done. Okay? And then putting men and women in the same environment, okay, it's just a matter, it's a ticking time bomb. It's a matter of time before something happens that's not supposed to happen. Okay? And you could say that these men are enlightened. You know, it's the same argument with nudists. I've talked to nudists. A lot of you talk to certain nudists and they're like, oh, you guys are just pigs. Like, we're spiritually developed. We don't even see sexuality. It's just a person and their natural state.
You can't, no. You can't,
it's
a little
more
bit disrespectful.
It's more hyper. No, it's not. It's more hyperbolic, but it is a related concept. Okay. So the point is, it's unnecessary. It's a dereliction of duty for the men and the women. And it's basically a denial of sexual reality. Okay. And let's say when Mashiach comes and nobody has a Yetzer Hara anymore, maybe it's not an issue. Okay.
Listen,
This seems like
I'll make one quick point. One quick point.
No.
I'll make one quick point. The fact is, these congregations exist, and they're not going away, and they're only growing.
Yeah.
Good.
You know what, Alex?
So hold on, 1 second. Hold on. Our primary obligation, I believe, is v'hafta kamecha, and the way that translates, I think, is to find any possible halachic leniency as long as it's within the rules of halacha, to create space. Now, if it's impossible to do so, it's impossible to do so. That renewal minyan, there's no space in halacha to justify any of that. But if you can, and if you're able to, and the method of your halachic evaluation comes from a halachic process, then it's almost as if we have to do that to create space, because everybody is different. There's some men that cannot daven in the congregation that has women that are sitting right there because they can't. And there's some men that very easily can.
Alex,
Maybe they're the minority.
Can I jump
All
in
I'm saying is we have what's first is we have to, and it's hard. That's why I was so triggered. And I realized, like, it doesn't matter. For myself, the only responsibility I have is for myself, whether I accept them or I don't. And if I don't accept them, what could I do? Do I influence? You know what? I was my orthodox, little bit right of center. I was questioning things in a polite way. At the same time, I allowed myself to be a little bit more expanded that I never thought I was possibly could. That's all I'm saying.
Alex, can I say a couple of things? First of all, I just want to say that I lived in I lived in Crown Heights for 3 years, and I interacted with a lot of these people. I can tell you there's a lot of anger. What do I mean by anger? A lot of them are kids of people who were, let's say, Bal Tshuva about the Rebbe, right? So the Rebbe was, Lubavitch Rebbe was their grandfather. And the grandfather, let's say, left us, went to a different plane of existence. So grandpa's gone. There's no guidance. There's no guidance for the parents. There's no guidance for the kids, right? Like you walk into one of the shuls, I'm not going to say what the name of the shul. For me, I'm one of these people. I walk into rooms and I feel the energy of the room. For me, the energy of that shul is palpable. The anger in that shul is palpable. And a lot of what they do is not halachic, meaning the halachic acrobatics or whatever you saw that were halachic, what you call outs in poker, are a result of hashkafic, like kavana. It's hashkafa playing itself out, personal hashkafa. I don't mean Jewish hashkafa. I'm talking about personal, emotional hashkafa playing itself out on the halachic playing field. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of it is also fueled by external wokeism. Wokeism that was picked up in, some of these people went to university because they weren't, this was their first time in a secular education setting. A lot of these people went to university after going to, whether it's guys or girls, after going to like day school for their whole life. And suddenly they find themselves in like an Ivy League school or something like that because they were smart enough to get in. And now they're like, holy crap, mind blown. The mind blown GIF, new ideas. And what some of those new ideas are like, it's just woke crap that flies in the face of Torah, right? The guy, the rabbi who you mentioned, he's the rabbi of a shul that's basically in a neighborhood just outside of Crown Heights. That is like,
no, this is
just,
very much pushing all the boundaries kind of shul.
Yeah, I've been to that shul. Listen, my friend got an amazing, he does museum tours and he actually got an amazing connection from actually going, stretching himself and going to like a lunch or a kiddush at that shul and meeting some people and this and that, and actually was able to do some kiruv, whatever it is. But by and large, man, like it's wokeism straight up. There's an external like treif hashkafa from like the goyish world that comes in and influences the decision making. And no matter how much halacha and hashkafa this guy knows, he's a big giant brain. This guy, I met him and I saw him and I heard him speak and I see him write. I used to follow him on Facebook. You're talking about stretching halachic boundaries, whatever it is, if you can work it. The problem with that on the basic level, that's just a slippery slope. It could be a slippery slope to God knows where, to you don't know where, right?
Listen, the rabbi takes the prize upon himself.
Listen, he can take a prize by himself, but again, it's knowing who he is.
That's what he did.
I know, but listen, he self-styles himself. I know this for a fact. He calls himself a progressive. He says we're part of the progressive community, right? So he wants to be open as like a quote unquote Orthodox shul for, I don't know, transgender, two-spirit, this, that, fluid, whatever it is, right? That's what it is. That's what it is.
His point is, even though these people are sick, and even these people are going through some real life freaking issues and problems.
His point is, you have to give
them.
They
need a space.
Yeah.
If they want to express themselves.
So here's my question.
They shouldn't be rejected.
I know, no, they shouldn't be rejected. But here's my question, man.
My experience of him was that he's a shtickle Mesiris Nefesh over there. Maybe it's
Alex. Listen. I know what he's trying to do. I'm just trying to tell you what the congregants are trying to do. I know what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is something different from what the people that are there are trying to do. The people that are there trying to do, again, you have to ask yourself a question.
Listen, it's also
Alex,
just let me finish. Different a little bit.
Just let me. You have to ask yourself a question. It's a question that Frank asked way in the beginning. Why does a woman need? Why are there women? What is with a woman who feels the need, compelled to do a man's?
Right. That's a legitimate question.
Why does she want to do tefillin? Why does she want to put on tefillin?
Why do we give a shit? Why should we care?
I'll tell you why.
What if we're wrong?
No. You want to know why? No. You want to know why? What you want to know why I give a shit? You really want to know why?
Why?
Because
we don't have enough of other problems to deal with.
No, it's not problems. It's another.
They're blocking Mashiach.
Listen to me.
Somehow.
Let me talk. No, it's not blocking Mashiach. There are certain computers. There's a PC and there's a Mac. There's a Wi-Fi and there's LAN, direct connection, right? You're not going to plug in. You cannot install PC things into a Mac. Yeah, maybe we have programs now, whatever it is.
Good. Do feminine men exist? Or do masculine women exist?
Dude, just let me finish, please, man. Let me finish. Дай мне высказать мысль целую.
I'm sorry.
Потом ты можешь.
I have a problem. It seems like I have a problem.
Пожалуйста. I'm not gonna go draconian on you like Frank. Just пожалуйста. Yes, there are women that have masculine this. We just spoke to one today. Dude, can I tell you something? We spoke to our friend Esther today. She will be the first one to tell you that she jokes about this. She said, I probably should have been born a boy. My father used to say that I'm like 12, it's like raising 12 boys in one. And she's a girl. But dude, you talk to her, she doesn't have an urge to put on tefillin. She doesn't have an urge to go women of the wall on Rosh Chodesh. She doesn't have an urge to do a man's job. She doesn't have an urge to say Kaddish, as much as she would love to say Kaddish for her father, because her husband doesn't know how. Nor does he maybe even want to. She doesn't have an urge. She has an urge, maybe a little bit, to teach Torah to her sons, because again, her husband, whatever it is, I'm not going to get into it. But like, even so, she would love to meet him, have her husband do that. She would gladly, she daven so that her husband can learn Torah to teach to her son. She's not davening, Hashem, please make me like a man to teach. Like, она не хочет, ей не хочется.
That's her.
I understand. Если что-то там есть, a lot of this doesn't come from because they think they're men. A lot of this comes from woke modalities and ideology. It's external crap. And then now you have a rabbi who's using Halachic Jiu-jitsu or Sambo to enable wokest external stuff that has nothing to do with Torah. Most of
why can't that be interpreted as him applying the principle of the Haftarah Kamocha?
Listen, the Haftarah Kamocha part comes from just just comes from just not kicking these people to the curb. That's not what we're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to kick them to the curb.
No, how many times we have in our stories that the rabbis go out of the way to do certain, like to make certain, like Rabbi, what's his name? Yeah. The Sephardic rabbi, the famous one that passed away not 10 years ago, Rabbi Yosef. He always would create leniencies because he wanted people not to be mahalo.
Brother, there's a difference between leniencies. Do you know he's the same person also?
So, again, I don't know if these are leniencies or these are breaking halacha. I don't know.
Alex,
you say if you guys tell me you know, Alex, you know.
Дай мне закончить. You have to always ask the question, what is the kavanah that people are coming from? Are they actually, this is what I asked. This is the question that I asked when I lived in Crown Heights for 3 years, and I interacted with these off the derech people. And I think Hashem sent me there to do inreach, to bring these people freaking back. For a naive, enthusiastic at the time, more enthusiastic than I am today, Bal Tshuva, to bring these people back. Dude, these people used to come to our house for Shabbos, these off the derech kids who grew up from.
But this is not the,
listen to me.
The off the derech crowd is not this crowd.
Alex, there's a lot of those people in that crowd. Or what I call, they're not off the derech, they're what I call clinging to the derech. They're Shomer Shabbos. These are people who just walk around with anger, a chip on their shoulder. Something happened. Something's going on. У них просто они злые люди, right? Не злые, I don't mean злые like disposition. I'm talking about just like there's a frustration there, and they're trying to play it out. You go to Palm Strimpin, you go to Sababa Fest, you go to there, you go to Isabella Freeman. It's the same overarching theme. It's the same energy that I feel when I walk in. Like tomorrow, I'm going to a Tubav event, right? I'm going there because I want to hear music at our what's it called, Iyun Center. I love Rabbi Pinson. What?
Oh, I was
Dove Bear Pinson.
Dove Pinson. But you walk into some of the people there are cool, but the other people are. You can feel it, man. It's palpable.
Zusha is playing in K tomorrow.
Dude, you know what I learned? There's a difference between, I used to go to that place for events before I moved to Crown Heights. There's a difference between going there for an event, for a musician that's invited to play there, which is an amazing concert venue, and going there to daven on a regular Shabbos or a regular minyan with the regulars, not an event. I'm talking about the people who go there. Again, I have nothing personally against them. It's just, I feel bad for people. I feel really, really bad. There's a really serious malfunction in the frum community, there's a brokenness. And yes, we cannot exclude people. We can't keep people to the curb, but taking woke ideology from the outside and applying it to run around halacha and figure out halacha and this and that and the other, it's already at best it's like a little bit disingenuous. At worst, it's a slippery slope.
It may not be for us.
I'm not saying for us or not us.
My main concern is I'm really concerned. I'm not concerned. I'm just wondering, and I'm learning more a little bit about these issues because I'm just curious to understand it better. What in fact is the halacha, and how far can a congregation go in terms of making it more inclusive for women and still be considered orthodox?
There's a difference between more inclusive and just doing something, giving a woman, again, like what Frank said, like a mandatory mandatory job, a man-mandated job. And a lot of these women can come and say, well, these halachas was set down by men and blah, 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 blah.
So that's the question. Whether there's room halachically for these man jobs to be given to women.
Listen, if there's room for these man jobs to be given to women, then you might as well throw Chazal into the garbage. Frank, am I mistaken in this?
In a manner of speaking.
Listen, I don't know enough to make that statement, and honestly, I don't think you guys know.
It's a basic principle.
Stuyvesant, let me ask you a question. Is there a masculine principle and a feminine principle in existence that God intended to be?
I mean, I experience life as a interaction between masculine and feminine, whether it's between me as a man and woman in my life, and internal process that can sometimes be feminine and masculine. Of course, there's some things that are feminine, some things that are masculine, no question about it.
Okay. Are there clear communications from God that there are certain things that he set aside for women and certain things that he set aside for men?
So if you mean clear communications from God, that means the way that the rabbinical authorities are applying halachic rules, right?
I'm talking about the written Torah and the oral tradition that was giving along with it.
And the way that oral tradition, we can also agree, is applied within communities, so long as it's within halachic. Meaning one community can have one way of applying. Like we're not talking, let's take this example, but you can have like some, Satmar Hasidic communities and some modern Orthodox communities that are all within the realm of halacha, but they apply oral tradition differently in many ways. And they're still considered halachic Jews, right? So you can have the will of God manifest a little bit differently within different communities.
Alex, what Frank is saying,
so long as it's
there's a baseline. There is a baseline, though.
So that's what I'm saying. The baseline is halacha. So if you could find a halachic pathway, that's the baseline.
No, but there's more going on in both the modern Orthodox and the Satmar that is far past just finding a halachic pathway. They're trying to focus on providing or giving to God what he was asking for, not trying to find halachic ways to essentially get around what he's asking for.
Can I just add one more thing? And I think this is going to give like a real good kind of perspective on this whole discussion. What happened next for me and Isabella Friedman was an exposure to some like transgender halacha, right? Which was triggering beyond any.
That's what I'm saying. That's why.
Listen. No. The halacha wasn't about whether or not transgenderism is okay or not. That's not the discussion.
Oh.
The discussion is, what does the Torah say about how to, whatever. I don't want to go into the nuances of that because
is it a man saying Kaddish or a woman saying Kaddish? It's confusing. Yes, I understand what's being.
Listen.
Yeah.
There's so much, and I felt it. So much anger that I experienced personally on the social political aggression with this whole transgender movement, right?
You mean from them or from you towards them? or from them?
Meaning the way that the transgender ideals has been pushed onto our society and trying to be normalized.
I know.
There's a lot of anger,
Yeah.
tremendous amount of anger.
Yeah.
So but nonetheless, there was a halachic discussion based on what's a man and what's a woman that was based on Torah sources, right? So I found myself not even wanting to listen to anything because there was a blanket rejection because of the anger. So now that's kind of an extreme example with the transgender. Now, if you take this idea of feminism, where me, like you guys, we share, I think, a common kind of disgust, or a common of like kind of like negative relationship to the fact that this whole idea of feminism being applied in certain ways is extremely non-feminine. It's extremely against the Torah, and it's like it's messing with our woman in our world, right? And it's a very strong political, social. Feminism has been around for much longer than transgender, all that, the alphabet city, right? But even though internally there is this anger towards that whole world, there is room for birur to actually have a relationship with the fact that there's actual people involved, that we do have an obligation of Ahavas Israel. The question is, how does that obligation manifest? And what I learned in that Shavuos experience, and it's hard as hell, is that sometimes we need to question, we need to create space for people to be people in a certain way. And if we can, and that's why I kind of experienced Rabbi Katz, he may be freaking dead wrong, but he's going out of his way to find a halachic path to be inclusive.
Alex, can I tell you something? When I was in Crown Heights for 3 years,
do you guys see what I'm saying?
I can tell you with absolute honesty that I saw the humanity in every single one of these people. I never, I was never like nasty to them. I always tried to be, friendly.
Because you're a mensch.
No, just listen, just cordial and this and this and this. But when push comes to shove, I tended to, if I could avoid situations and being in social situations with this group of people, I'm the first one to admit, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's wrong, maybe it's messed up. I like I told Frank, I'm like, I don't confront. I just ran away from them. Why? Because at the end of the day, there's something in my neshama. It's not that I'm anything against them. Again, there's this whole thing. Rabbi Yom Tov Glazer has a possible use seminar, so he talks about approval and acceptance, right? I approve them as people. They're people. I'm not going to send them to an internment camp. I approve them. The human being. I'm sorry. I accept them, but I don't approve of them. I don't approve of what they're doing. I accept them as people. I just don't approve.
All right, so that's beautiful. So
that's it. No, but you have to understand.
That's birur.
But you have to understand. You have to understand, Alex. You have to remember one thing: that the left in this country, in the Western world, doesn't understand the difference. They think that because you don't approve of what they're doing, they think that you don't accept them, and it makes them very, very, very angry. And you must.
We're not talking about that.
I know you're not talking about that, but they are. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They think that you have to approve of them. You must, at the barrel of a freaking gun.
No. So you know what? Maybe I'm sure there's elements
what they think.
of that.
That's how they feel.
But that's a general, and I hear you. That's part of the left disease.
That's the vibe I got. That's the vibe I got.
Right. I didn't get that vibe at all. At least with the environment that I was around, which may have been a little bit of an older crowd, and it wasn't filled with fried out Hasidim and Lubavitchers, that were rebelling. You know what I mean?
Listen, man, I don't know. I went.
It kind of forced me to try to find birur within my own narratives. Meaning, my narratives are still my narratives, but there's space for Havas Israel and humanity, and then the question then becomes, okay, I personally want this guy to be right. I do, because that means all these people are not breaking any halachas. And if they're, and at the same time, I'm uncomfortable davening there. For me,
Alex, for me, I'll tell you something.
and that's okay. Just like I'm
Alex,
not comfortable
Alex,
davening in
Alex, I'll tell you something. I
Litvish shoes.
had a roommate in Crown Heights. He's Yemenite and he grew up, partially Torani, Haredi, whatever, Hardal in Israel. And so, Yemenites, there's a reason, Yemenites don't look at things from the lens of hashkafa. They look at things from the lens, what's the halacha, right? There's not a lot of nuance, there's not a lot of subtlety. So if you're looking at something from like, can this be done by halacha and this and that? Again, man, if you have a rabbi like that, I read some of his stuff, right? And he knows how to find halachic outs for anybody because of compassion or whatever it is. But you have to always go back to what's the kavana, what is the spirit of the halacha that he's coming out with? What is the spirit of why he wants to do this? What is the spirit of why these?
I experienced it as a Havas Israel.
Let me just
why he?
I understand. What is the spirit of these women who want to come do this? What is the spirit of the men who are letting them do it? What is the spirit of all these people? Is it genuine? Is it woke? Is it half woke? Is maybe 5 of the 10 people are woke, 5 of the others are genuine? We don't know, but it's a slippery slope. That's what makes this whole thing dangerous. It's dangerous. That's the problem. There's danger there.
I don't think
red flags, danger. You understand?
Can I,
are
guys?
they more dangerous?
Can I get a chance? Can I get a chance to get to this in a few minutes?
Your perspective is legitimate. I get it.
No, listen, man. I hear where you, Alex. I hear where you're coming from because I'll tell you, living in that neighborhood, I had nothing but. I don't want to use the word pity, but I really wanted to hug all the, like Rav Kook used to say, if I could hug all of humanity, I would. If I could hug all these Lubavitch kids that I met, by the way, that never got kicked out of their parents' house. Lubavitchers are the only people not to kick or sit shiva on their off the derech children, or the only Hasidim that don't do that.
Amazing.
Unlike Satmar, I don't know. It's interesting, right?
I think Satmar is.
And there's a reason for that because when you learn,
no. By the way, Satmar is.
Satmar what?
They're opening up.
They're opening up. I'm just saying, when you learn Hasidut, you don't kick your kids out of your house just because they're off the derech. That's what I've seen. Okay.
Exactly.
So, Frank, you wanted to say something real quick?
I did.
Yeah.
I really need like maybe put on a timer, fellas. I think I need like about 3 minutes without like a single word being said. It's not a lot to ask for.
You just mute ourselves.
Don't mute yourself. Just 3 minutes. It's not hard. Okay. I mean, I'll try to make it not too hard to listen to me. All right. So I wanted to talk about the difference between my will, my personal will as an individual, and my proclivities, and God's will. My will, or the things that I like, do not align with God. I'll tell you, some of them do, like, don't kill, don't murder, be gentle, be loving, don't steal, don't damage property. Okay. Be nice to people, be helpful to them. That kind of stuff, that I feel a natural connection to that kind of stuff. All of the restrictions, all the sexual restrictions, I don't agree. I can't say I agree or don't agree. I don't like, I'm just saying, like, personally, I wish that God would just chill out and just let people do whatever the hell they want sexually and not make them sick and not punish them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have any personal connection to making people behave the way God wants them to behave. What I mean by personal, meaning I'm kind of like, if not restricted by the realization that God is the boss and that if we don't do what he says, nothing is going to get better. We're not going to get to where we want to. I want to get to a stage where there's no death and there's no loss. Okay? And there's no sickness. Okay? So we have to do what he says because he's the boss and he's in charge, and that's it. Simple as that. However but I don't wish it was like that. Okay, I don't care what people do sexually as long as it's mutual. Okay, mutual adults. Okay, and also no animals. Leave the animals alone. Okay, I couldn't give a damn what people would do. Like, why am I going to bother someone who's trying to have a good time? If it's weird to me, that it's not part of my reality. Like, why do I care? Like, I want to have my own experiences. I want to look for the stuff that I like. Okay, so my personal thing is I don't give a shit what they do. I don't care. I'm just saying that the reality is not my will. The reality is God's will, because he's in charge. This is his project. We got him. He's the one we gotta satisfy in order to get out of the shithole that we're in. That's the basic reality. People are going to criticize me. I've heard people criticize me before. Oh, that's a terrible way to look at it, and you're making God out to be, this or that or this and that. But they never focus on the reality of what I'm saying. So I usually answer them, well, okay, I mean, but do we have to do what God says in order to get out of the situation? Yes. They just don't like that I'm saying it and that I'm looking at it or I'm saying it out loud. Okay, so what I'm saying is that the goal, there's a vision here. What are we doing here? Honestly, do you think that given a chance, given the choice, that you would have come here? Nobody needs this world. Okay, Manus Friedman says this all the time. You are a soul. You know what a soul means? A soul means you. Forget the word soul. Forget the word neshama. Neshama is the real you. It's your personality, your reality, and all of your memories and all your feelings and all your thoughts. The you was somewhere else before you were brought here.
Frank, can I say
nobody needed to, hold on, and nobody wanted to come here. And we're totally happy where we were, okay?
Can I say one thing that confirms what you're saying right now? I have a friend who says the only reason that he hasn't offed himself is because he's afraid of kafakela. Rather, not that he off himself, but that he finds it very painful to be in this world, in this life, and the only reason he can't leave is because he knows kafakela is a real thing, and that's it. So he's stuck here. It's crazy, right?
That's the basic reality is that for those who are not connected to the underlying reality, the true vision that God sees, and they're all enthusiastic about it, like the tzaddikim, and I'm not, I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who doesn't see what the tzaddikim see. Okay, so yeah, that's very understandable. It feels like we're stuck. It's scary and it's not pleasant, and it doesn't seem fair, and I don't like any of it. Okay, but if we're gonna get out of this, we gotta deliver the product that he's asking for, because that's what we're doing here. This is not like this is a construction site. Why are you trying to build why are you trying to build a bachelor pad in a construction site? You sit on a bucket for lunch. You don't have to buy like a live edge redwood slab table to bring to the construction site. You know what I mean? Like people they're not focused on what we're doing here to finish the project. They're focused on everything else but. That's the main issue that I have with what this guy is doing. You understand? So anyway, that's it. I'm done.
Sound like
Cool.
Ben Affleck from Boiler Room.
So I had what was the real opening experience in Shavuos. Like, I found myself questioning my stereotypes. I found myself questioning my biases, and I'm not running to these minyanim. I'm not all of a sudden supporting transgenderism. None of that. But my eyes were opened to the possibility of things being maybe a little bit different than what I think they are, especially within the Orthodox world.
One thing, I mean, I can tell Alex, I can tell you that
the way people relationship with God, the way the people relationship with God is very intimate and very personal. And yes, there's rules and all that, but who are we to tell people how they should relationship with God?
We're not telling anybody. God told us. Anyway.
Listen, I think
So, friend, God is halacha.
what I forgot to say was that part of this, another aspect of this is if we're saying that, Frank mentioned that in the time of Mashiach, there's not going to be any more Yetzer Hara and this and that and the other, meaning these people are so to speak, and even this rabbi is ahead of the game. What does that mean? That means that the Sitra Achra gets it first, meaning the Sitra Achra it could be that the Sitra Achra is pushing these people to, women to do men's jobs and all the rest of it. Because the closer we get to Mashiach, the more and more this kind of stuff we're going to see. And not because, the Shina's coming, the Shina is coming back, but because the Sitra Achra gets it first. So again, even in the Jewish community, first and foremost, we're going to see this kind of stuff more and more. Just like we're going to continue seeing, people in the Orthodox world just rebelling against how they were raised and their families and all these kind of things, and searching for other ways to connect or, reconnect or disconnect or, temporarily disconnect or permanently disconnect, whatever it is. But that's what's happening. The closer we get, it's all tikkunim, right? But part of that whole thing is the Sitra Achra gets it first. That's what I see when I walk into these shuls. That's what I feel. That's what my neshama is being communicated. That's what's being communicated to my neshama. That's what I.
Rabbi Bax said said similar ideas about it, but
Yeah.
Alex said something. He said, God is halacha. I have to challenge you on that. And we find God extending himself into halacha, but we find the dance of the gevurot, the chasadim and the gevurot. We find evidence of that within halacha. Okay? Gevura is the will of God without any tolerance for anything going against it. It's basically, it's the ultimate. If you want to know what God wants, look towards the gevurot. That's where the details are. Okay, you want to know, if you care about God and you really want to connect to him and you want to know what he likes and you want to make a beautiful present for him the way he likes it, look into the details. Okay. However, there's
Can you get any more detailed than trying to carve out, based on halachic principles, a halachic pathway to create more space for people to serve God in the way that they're comfortable serving God?
Listen for a second. Then you have the chasadim. That's the part of the mercy which tolerates that which is not what he wants. He does that to allow us to exist, because it doesn't seem like anybody could satisfy him really. I don't feel like that's what it seems like to me sometimes. It's like it's almost impossible. But we have to do our best to try. So the gevur, we have to get as much of the details that he set out for us as possible, and then the stuff that we can't accomplish, the chasadim, they save us. They temper this like strict. He tolerates when his will is not precisely done. Okay, so when you have to be really careful, and I'm not that careful, but I'm just saying, anybody who wants to be good, you know what I mean? They have to pay attention to that very carefully and realize what's happening. Okay, these congregations are relying almost entirely on the chasadim, whereas they're like, look, we don't want to do, or we don't want to hang out with you the way you want. We want to hang out the way we're comfortable, and let's hope that you can tolerate us. That's
actually, again, I'll tell you something. This was a unique congregation within that space. There was real distinction about what women still cannot do. It wasn't like, oh, you're the same as men. It was like a carve out based on what they were able to find halachic space for.
I know, they want their cake and eat it too. Everybody wants their cake and eat it too. Everybody feels guilty. Everybody feels bad. a lot of these people grew up from, they don't want to like.
Or they feel comfortable doing those things, but not those things because there's no halacha, there's no way for them to halachically justify that.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe not. It just the way it looks like to me. I don't know how it looks like to Greg. It looks like everybody there has something to prove, but it's not to God.
Yeah. Listen, man.
I don't know. I experienced. I was thrust in there. Hashgacha Pratis put me into that space for me to get something out of it.
Alex, can I tell you something? Can I tell you something, man? I say like
I'm grateful I went.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I think it's great that you had that experience. I like to say like this. My life has already been complicated by becoming a Baal Tshuva. Why am I going to complicate it more by listening to rabbis who grew up frum and who are so very, very smart and do all kinds of halakhic? It complicates my life even more. Like,
I hear you.
I'd rather just stop being frum.
In a way, my life is easier because I'm so children focused. I'm so focused. I need to create an environment for my children that's comfortable, and I'm willing to make compromises on my environment.
Alex, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there's all these people who grew up frum, and then they start, having these really, really intricate halachic discussions about halakha and discussions about hashkafa. Like if you read this guy Katz, Rabbi, this Yitzhak Katz, his wall on Facebook, it's such an intricate discussion, and it's like this tiny niche of people. Some of them went to YU, some of them are ex Hasidim, some of them are this, some of them are Reform. It gives me a headache. I'd rather just go back to being secular. You understand what I mean? I'm not even talking about like all this stuff gives me a headache. It's enough of a headache just to be frum on a basic level. Now I have to listen to their discussions about like, oh, I don't know about this and I don't know about that and boy, give me past the Advil. Shit, it makes me want to go back to just.
Well, that's why
bitches
he's doing it. Well, someone has to do it.
Someone has to do it, but it ain't me. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm just good. I'm good with my Rabbi Anava talking about the shibud. No, talking about
they're not targeting. And they're not targeting you. You're not the guy that they want to.
I know, but I had to live around.
They're not there for you.
I know they're not there for me, but I had to live around there for 3 years and listen and like be swimming it. Jesus, Frank, what do you think?
Listen,
should I just become secular because I can't take this anymore.
I mean, there's no reason to be involved in it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have the issues that these.
I don't have the kli. I just don't have the kli for this.
No,
stuff.
but you don't have the issues that everybody.
I have other issues.
Like
there's no chance in the world I'm meeting a woman that is my beshert in that space.
You never know, man.
I'm not.
You never freaking know. I dated a woman from that space, sort of, kind of.
It's not. But I can still accept them and be friendly with them and try to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to see them tomorrow. I'm going to dance with them tomorrow, probably, and some of the women too, probably. Not like how I used to dance in Twilo, but whatever.
But Zat Hashem, you'll meet your wife tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm in.
There are people who, for one reason or another, they felt such a strong connection to a mitzvah that they are not
I have to do.
They're not chayav, that they're not obligated to do. So we have precedents like that in history. Like for instance, like Rashi's daughters are famous for putting on tefillin. Okay, but they did that privately. They felt a private connection to that, but they also understood that public behavior
what's called,
is important, that it has an effect. So even though they themselves felt such a strong connection to this particular mitzvah for spiritual reasons, they also didn't want to make it seem like it's okay to just to kind of to go against the general will of God. There's a general will. There's a general way the world wants the world to look. Okay, so if in a private relationship, in a private moment that's just between you and God, and it's halachically allowed, that's a completely different issue. What's happening in the shul is that it's normalizing visually, publicly, where it doesn't look like the world in that shul doesn't look like the ideal that God set out, and God is gonna have his ideal. Okay, and I'm not God's hype man. I'm just saying facts. That's it.